Welcome everyone to today's webinar presented by AdvancedMD. We'll be looking at 5 overlooked systems and processes to boost your bottom line. The goal today is that you can take away a few action items to hopefully help the practices you serve or the practice that you work with. My name is Travis Geddes. I'm the Director of Billing Services Sales here at AdvancedMD. I've been here for a total of 7 years, with 5 of those spent serving our billing services partners. When I'm not working at AdvancedMD, I enjoy spending time on the golf course with my fiance, and so does my colleague, Mr. Frank L. Bass.
Thank you, Travis. My name is Frank Bass. I've been with AdvancedMD for 4 years, in particular working with our large practice organizations and more recently with our billing companies. Prior to AdvancedMD, I spent 15 years in finance, growing up and coming from Chicago at Northwestern University. I started my career out with the Chicago Fed before moving to asset management and sales and operations. When I am not working, I'm with Travis. I'm an avid golfer and supporting Northwestern sports. And I'll also say a little fun fact about myself. I'm a diehard Harry Potter fan, so much I named my son Griffin after Gryffindor.
That is a fun fact. Another one I will add is Frank actually played wide receiver at Northwestern and is 10x the athlete that I ever hoped to be. So sometimes I vicariously live through him. Before we jump into 5 areas that we hopefully can impact your bottom line, I wanted to just talk a little bit about RCM in general. Now, whether you're a third-party billing company or an internal biller, you understand the sophistication that is the revenue cycle management process. There is so much that goes into it. There's so much that impacts it. And really what it boils down to is consistent processes to make your job easier as a billing service or as a biller within the practice. It is so important that you stay on top of regulations, compliance, etc. There is a long list of reasons that RCM is sophisticated and complex, and there's a long list of reasons that you have to continue to educate yourself. Today's goal, again, is to point out 5 simple ways or simple workflows that you're all going to be familiar with, but hopefully we can give you a new perspective and a new idea on truly what it means to impact the bottom line through the basics. So when it comes to potential blind spots, it's important that you identify the areas that you can enhance your revenue. Now, this could be as simple as your intake process or as complex as business intelligence and everywhere in between. There's no silver bullet here. There's no way to hit the nail on the head every single time because it's an ever-changing atmosphere. It's an ever-changing environment that we are constantly having to evolve and constantly having to stay on top of. For example, you look several years ago, you look at the change from ICD-9 to ICD-10, going from a smaller set of codes to an incredibly long list of codes. That was a huge change. You then look at meaningful use, which has evolved into MACRA and MIPS. It's been a portion of the biller's responsibility to maintain and keep track of all of that. Not to mention the ever-changing landscape of healthcare. You look at the changes just in the last year, or the last few years, excuse me, with COVID, how that's changed the intake process, how that's changed the billing services jobs and responsibilities. We are all in a field that requires us to be adaptable. It requires us to be nimble, but again, it requires us to be consistent. And so the goal today, as I pass it over to Frank, is that we can find one simple way, maybe even 2, that you can make your processes better. Just recently, I was working with some individuals here at AdvancedMD, and we were talking about how to break a slump, how to come out of a slow start maybe to the year, or just to kind of shake off that ice. We were coming out of a historic winter here in Salt Lake City, and so that one feels as applicable as ever. But how do you knock off that rust? And so I did some research and I found a great article that talked about a best practice where you violently attack or violently execute on one thing personally and one thing professionally. That's what I would encourage and ask, that whatever you take away from today's webinar, attack it, execute on it. Find one thing, make it a strength, and then go to the next thing. Keep it simple for yourself. Don't put too many things on your plate, because like we're talking about, we have a very complex job in working with revenue cycle management. So I would encourage everyone to attack one thing today. And if you do that, you'll be more successful because of it. And Frank will start with the 5 overlooked systems and processes to boost your bottom line.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. It really is truly what Travis said, where we're trying to give you hopefully something you can implement that's relatively simple and also that's in your control. So hopefully today you can walk away with one of those things that are simple and in your control, and that will have a significant impact on your bottom line. But before we dive into those factors, let's take a step back and define what is your bottom line. There's two determining factors, revenue and expenses. We either have to increase adding revenue by adding more patients or clients, or on the other hand, we can decrease expenses by becoming more efficient and hopefully using less human capital, both leading to the outcome of increasing a bottom line. But there is one other one that we all would want, the one where you can increase revenue while decreasing human capital, probably the perfect storm and something we all strive for. But let's discuss a couple things that are hopefully allow us to get there. The 5 things: eligibility, patient engagement, credit card processing, transparency, interoperability. 5 things that are in your control and simple, hopefully avoiding that sophistication trap that Travis just talked about and boosting those bottom lines. Eligibility. At the beginning of the revenue cycle, rejected claims are the biggest and largest potential drain on both revenue and expenses. Not getting reimbursed and the human capital resources required to work those rejected claims is draining your business. Now, there's a myriad of reasons for a claim to be rejected, from improper coding, incomplete information, to dozens of other formulaic opportunities that we've run into. But the number one reason, surprisingly, is very simple and straightforward. It's insurance ineligibility. This includes lapse in coverages, changes to insurance statuses, changes to covered products or procedures, among the myriad of other things. Not being eligible. Most billing automation systems now include automated eligibility. If it's a feature that you don't have right now, you need to take a look in the mirror. There's processes that you can improve to make you more efficient. The most successful businesses make eligibility checks a part of their daily routine. My best practices in billing companies, they do this a day before or to the appointment. I know that's not always the case. It's just best practices. That way, scheduling procedures or exam coverages and having that insurance eligibility prior will avoid a lot of awkward conversations while either a patient is in the waiting room, or worse, during checkout, or the patient has already left and it's actually a procedure that's not even reimbursed for. We just lost that revenue. Checking eligibility on every patient is the bare minimum. But what about long-established patients? We often forget those. Employment and insurance statuses changes are constant, especially at the beginning of the year. We want to make sure those patients aren't left off and we're not just looking at new patients. This is another way for you to lose out on revenue. Checking eligibility on every patient is the bare minimum, but let's not forget about our long-established patients. Employment and insurance statuses change constantly, especially at the beginning of the year. We all know that. And most patients won't be proactive in calling you and telling you to update it. This is also another big thing that is in your control that is very simple to accomplish. So you have to ask yourself, is your eligibility workflow a positive or a drain in your practice and your bottom line? Are your patients having a positive experience with your staff and your office prior to seeing a provider? People's lives are becoming busier and busier and more connected. Are you offering your patients a way to be connected to your office? Are you meeting your patients halfway? Many practices miss the opportunity to completely integrate and automate that patient intake process. Gone are the days of handing a patient a clipboard and having to fill it out. No one has that time anymore. Many practices miss the opportunity to completely integrate and automate the patient intake process, which, if done well, increases the accuracy of patient histories, incorporates patients' preferences into your practice, and a great avenue for you to reduce redundant staff work. Long gone are the days of that clipboard. Let's allow the patients to complete that prior to coming in. Utilize the intake process and the features integrated with a patient portal and your practice management system. It will greatly benefit both your patients and your staff. Having patients read, edit, and complete intake forms and documents prior to appointments is a huge convenience for them in their busy schedules, and also a process that they're very used to these days. We're in a world of technology and connectedness as both a healthcare industry, and so are your patients. In addition, allowing your staff to customize those forms, manage distribution and completion of those forms will significantly increase their productivity. They know exactly what they need from the patients, most times more than a provider does. And allowing them to, and the ability to gather that information prior to seeing the provider will be a great help to them and your practice. Finally, to get the most value out of this process, you have to make sure you're with a system that automatically loads this information. Nothing worse is to get this information online, but then you're having a staff manually enter that information. That's not what we want. Having a system integrated where it is automatically loaded is going to save, again, and make your practice more efficient, but more importantly, it's going to allow the provider to be able to see more patients due to the increased patient load. Now that we've addressed a couple internal processes for you to change that are fairly simple, let's shift gears and look at more of an external, probably a vendor or a third party that you're using, credit card processing. While credit card processing right now is probably going pretty smoothly, many companies overlook the opportunity to easily improve on this system through payment collections and copay, huge part of the revenue equation. Research shows that taking patient copayment and balances at the time of service dramatically reduces the portion that ends up uncollectible. Technologies can also save credit cards on file, allowing you to automatically charge payments to collect those copays or create payment plans. Again, both things that allow the patient to feel connected and saving them time. Implementing a fast, secure, and completely integrated credit card process solution will drastically improve payment convenience for your patients. I don't know about you, but I tend to think that happier patients pay more. The true benefit is captured when you have integrated credit card processing. This eliminates the redundancy of manual entry for your staff and frees them up to do other tasks. In addition, it allows your patients to feel they can easily pay for their bills, something that we do want. Now, we've had these three, I will pass it over to Travis for the final two kind of areas that you will be able to hopefully take and improve your bottom line.
Thank you, Frank. Those are three great principles that if you don't have established and an effective process in place for, that the two items I'm prepared to speak with you today are probably going to fall flat. Truly, the items that Frank discussed are the foundation that you need to build the practice and your revenue cycle management process on. Without correct patient information, without credit cards on file, and without correct intake forms, you're going to consistently be tracking down and chasing patients and chasing the money that you've already done the work and should be getting paid. But once you have those strong established processes and a great patient experience, that brings us to transparency and the importance of automated reporting. As you're looking on the screen, you can see that it is estimated that the medical industry wastes $700 billion each year on administrative inefficiencies. When I first saw this number, I thought it might have been a typo because billion with a B is a lot of money, especially 700 billion. And when you start to look at the true cost of a denied claim, the true cost of missing patient information, or the true cost of the items that Frank discussed, you start to see why there are $700 billion each year that's wasted on administrative inefficiencies. For example, I brought up denied claims. On average, it's anywhere between $20 and $30 to rework a denied claim. And that's if you have patient information that is correct. So it is so important that you have reporting and transparency that you can stay on top of inefficiencies or inadequacies in your workflows. Continuing with the example of a denied claim, ask yourself, do you have the ability to group or to report on what those denial trends might be? Are you able to identify where the mistakes or where the issues are created? For example, Frank's talked to us today about patient intake forms. Do you have a way to track and identify denials or visits that weren't paid for because of inaccurate information before the visit even started? Or potentially, is it a coding problem? All too often I hear about medical assistants having to push the providers to properly sign and code their visits, or vice versa. It might be that the visits are being coded, but they're not getting out in an efficient manner. So what type of reporting do you need? Really, it breaks down to three different buckets from my perspective. Is fast. You've got to be able to provide transparency and information fast, especially if you're a billing part or a billing service. If your practice requests information or data or business intelligence, you've got to be quick in being able to provide that for them. Now, ask yourself today, do you have the tools and the resources necessary to be able to provide fast reporting? The second item, after you can get it quickly, is intuitive. How painstaking is the process for you to be able to report on the things that are necessary or required? How easy is it to add additional information to your dashboards or to your reports? How easy is it to combine different metrics and different data points? So not only do you need a fast ability to pull data fast, you need the ability to do it intuitively. So that way your time can be spent on other things, revenue generating activities. Reporting should not be something that is a part-time job for your billing staff or for your teams. It should be something that's fast, intuitive, and the third item is powerful. Are you able to have different charts communicate with each other? Are you able to export it? Are you able to, again, adapt and overcome different things that the ever-changing landscape of healthcare are going to throw at you? Ultimately, if you can answer this question as a yes, the following question is a yes, you're in a good spot. Are you able to quickly pull reports, and are you quickly able to adapt those reports to changes or to new questions that your practices or your boss might be asking you? So again, you want transparency, you need to know where the issues, where the mistakes are happening, and again, it needs to be fast, it needs to be intuitive, and it needs to be powerful. Now that you have some solid workflows in place, now that you have the reporting, the transparency that you truly need to be able to know where your practice or your business is at, it brings us to the item that I'm most excited to talk to you about today, and that's interoperability. Interoperability is so important because of today's landscape. Today's technology is quickly evolving. We see things like ChatGPT evolving, not to mention if for my Snapchat users out there, you now have an artificial intelligence that you can chat with. It's incredible to see where technology has gone. Now you apply it to healthcare, and you can start to see where being able to have applications communicate with each other is so important. Going back to the last topic of transparency, far too often I'm hearing from my practices and from my billing services, their inability to have systems communicate with each other, which as a result of that, they're not able to have a full transparent view of the processes in place. That's where having the ability to integrate these different technologies is so important. A great example of this is the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw many things for the first time, working from home, not being able to go out and participate in groups. But in addition to that, we saw CMS reimbursements that we have never seen before. For example, for home test kits, we had HRSA that was reimbursing for the COVID tests. And consistently, I watched the billing services that had the IT infrastructure or interoperability infrastructure, I watched them consistently outperform their competition because of their ability to quickly adapt and overcome issues. A great example of that is a lot of our laboratories that we work with, they needed to be able to integrate with a billing software to efficiently and effectively bill for the COVID-19 tests that the labs were providing. The billing services and the companies that were able to plug and play, and when I say plug and play, what I mean there is the companies that were able to have systems communicating with each other were the ones that were winning the deals. They were the ones that were able to capitalize on something that none of us foresaw, which was the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, and thankfully, as we watch that pandemic wind down to an end, those individuals, those billing companies or technology companies that are able to plug and play, able to integrate, are continuing to see more and more success in comparison to their competitors. It really is as simple as needing to be able to have different applications communicate with each other. And we will only see this need grow as we continue to see technology improve. As we continue to see more and more artificial intelligence and robot process automation in the revenue cycle management space. The need to have systems communicating together is as important now as it ever has been. All that's great, but where do you start? If you don't have an IT infrastructure to build integrations via API, HL7, et cetera today, don't worry. There's a lot of great companies out there that give us the ability to be IT experts when we are experts in billing, not technology. For example, we have several third-party partners that we work with here internally at AdvancedMD to help our clients build integrations. Now, these integrations can be with lab information systems, other electronic health records, patient engagement tools, etc. But don't worry if you don't know where to start. Reach out to us. We'll be able to point you in the right direction if you don't have the ability to integrate or plug and play today. There's companies out there that can help. Now, in the instance where you might have a great IT team, or you might have an employee with the potential to learn integrations, there's a lot of great courses and information in the industry today to help with that. There's third-party consultants and third parties, like I mentioned earlier, that can build integrations. They can also help your team learn. So whether you want to outsource interoperability or keep it in-house, you've just got to start somewhere. And if you're lost and don't know where to start, reach out to your AdvancedMD representative, or feel free to email us. You'll see an email here at the end of this slideshow, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. But it is incredibly important that you get moving on this, because the need for interoperability is only going to grow. Now, it's so important that I leave you with one last thought, or I guess reiterate one more thought, a thought that I gave you earlier. And that is, no matter where you're at, start. If you feel like you're not doing any of the things we talked about here today on the webinar, just start with one. Pick what you see is potentially the easiest and attack it. Implement it and then move on to the next one. You don't need to overwhelm yourself by implementing all of these things all at once. Identify, and usually as a group is the best way to do this, identify what your biggest gap is and work on that one. Once that starts to become a strength, you can move on to the next and the next and the next. The reality is if you have too many things on your plate, you're not going to be able to accomplish them as effectively as you can when you work on them one or two at a time. Anything more than two at a time is too much from my perspective. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Our hope is that you're able to walk away with one or two best practices that you can go implement that you're not doing today. If you have any questions or any concerns, feel free to reach out to us at advancedbiller@advancedmd.com, and we'll be sure to respond to you immediately with any information that you're requiring or that you require or need from us. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic day. And again, thank you for attending today's webinar.